What's up, everybody? Azaro here for my E3 reactions for Microsoft Xbox One conference. Just keep in mind that I'm only going to be doing two of these reaction videos. Um, because I did not pay attention to the EA or the Ubisoft ones. Because quite frankly, my main focus was on the Xbox and the Sony PlayStation, so those will be the only two I'll be covering. But first up, we're going to be doing the E3 Microsoft Xbox One conference. So with that being said, let's get started. As you can see, I got like a shit ton of notes. Yeah, pretty. Yeah, go and have a look at it. Shit ton of notes, front and back page. So we got a lot to cover. So first off, so the Microsoft Xbox One conference starts off with a trailer playing for the new Metal Gear Solid. It's called Metal Gear Solid 5, and what's new about it is that it's an open world game with horseback riding. It has real time weather. It has real time passage, meaning that if it's say I'll say around like 5 o'clock your time, then it's going to be like 5 o'clock in the game. So it has real time passage, and a new surprise is that the new snake in the game, which is going by the name of uh, Punish Snake, is voiced by Kiefer Sutherland. Now that name might sound familiar to some of you guys because he was the lead role in the Fox hit series 24. So he's the new voice for the new. So he's the voice for the new Snake in this game, in the new Metal Gear Solid 5. Next up, Don Matrick and Hideo Kojima come out and then just saying like just speak a little bit more about um, mm, uh, Metal Gear Solid 5, and then Don introduces Yusef Maida, who comes out to speak on what's new for the Xbox 360, and also stating that there is a new modern version of the 360 already available, and that Xbox Live Gold membership carries over to the Xbox One. And like, who really wants to buy an Xbox 360 at this point? But I'm guessing if you didn't buy one, like just throughout this whole entire time, hearing about all the controversy and the negatives, which I'm going to speak on later on in this video, I'm guessing it's a good time to get one if you're that much of an Xbox, player, or like you just want like an Xbox or whatever. Hey, there you go. Um, and also they mentioned that starting January, Xbox Live, um, Xbox Live Gold members get 2 free games a month, 2 free downloadable games a month. So, yeah, let me bring this up to me a little bit. So yeah, that's cool that you guys get free stuff. Xbox Live Gold members get free junk, and yeah, that's always something to be happy about. Moving on. Let's see. Don't want to lose my space. Okay, so they got two more games that were announced: Max Curse of Brotherhood and Dark Souls. Now, Max Curse of Brotherhood is like this side-scrolling platforming game to where like you use this magic marker and like you can make these like water currents that you can jump in and flow in order to jump over these large gaps, like as well as other things. And also it was Dark Souls 2, which is like Dark Souls, but it seems to have more monsters, or like some crazier looking monsters. So yeah, Dark Souls 2, they didn't really show too much of that. I mean, it's just Dark Souls 2. That's the best way I can explain it. So next up, Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Studios, comes out to talk more about the Xbox One and how they were teaming up with companies all over the world, and then also made this new IP called Rise, Son of Rome. Now, the combat in this game seems to be focused around quick time events, because all I basically seen was them, just parrying hits, or like doing 1 or 2 hits and then goes to like a quick time event to where they just kill the person that they're battling. And like another thing that they did You know, like you're playing as this captain in the Spartan army. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, like what you're able to do is you're able to rally your troops and use your shields in order to guard, you know what I'm saying, the the enemy's arrows. You know, anybody who's watched movies like 300, or you just been deep into, you know, um, Spartan, um, uh, battle formations and things of that nature. What they used in this game was called the phalanx position. I mean, battle formation. My bad. And yeah, like that's basically what they use in order to um, take down the archers that were firing upon them. You know, anytime they were fired upon, the the captain would yell, you know, arrows, and then everybody's shields would come up and they would just block them. And then what would happen is that they would take their spears and they would toss them over, you know, and take out the archers with the spears. So that was something pretty cool. Next up, we had Savant Yurley from Crytek to speak a little bit more on Rise, and they also mentioned that it's an Xbox exclusive. The next, a trailer played for a game that a lot of people have been wanting since the Nintendo 64, Killer Instinct. It's coming to the Xbox One as an exclusive, so that's some cool news. Next up, Ted Price from Insomniac Games came out and to introduce Sunset Overdrive, which is like this open world shooter, pretty much, and it looked decent. You know, like it looked pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't bad. Uh, Next up, a trailer for Forza Motorsport 5 played, and then Dan Greenawalt came out and said that Forza 5 is the end of AI, and they introduced this new program called a Drivatar. Now, basically, what the Drivatar is that it's a program that reads how you play, and then the computer will respond in kind. So let's say, like, if you try some new driving tactics to say like speed up or to cut corners or what have you, then what this Drivatar will do is like read that, and then um it will adjust its strategy. So, mind you, this is even in cars that you haven't driven in before, and like tracks you haven't even raced on before. So that's something interesting and cool that I think they introduced. And then they played a trailer that was supposed to have all in-game footage, but the trailer was just like a regular trailer. They didn't have any in-game footage in it, and it was kind of a letdown because it was like I was expecting to see in-game footage. I was told I was going to see in-game footage, and all I seen was pretty much is like this montage of like camera angles of a car driving down the road. It wasn't like any actual gameplay going on. So yeah, that was kind of a letdown. So Forza Motorsport 5, of course, is an Xbox exclusive. Take me a sip of something. Damn. Okay. So, next up, Phil Harrison comes out and he introduces Minecraft Xbox One Edition. I mean, it's Minecraft for the Xbox 3, not for the Xbox 360, but for the Xbox One. Nothing really surprising there. Okay, I was checking back on my notes, and I ended up skipping two important things. That well, for one, two of the new games that they will give you for free. I forgot to mention this as I was, just speaking about that. My eyes just skimmed right over it. And like the first two games that they will be starting you off with are Assassin's Creed 2 and Halo 3. Big whoop, no big surprise there. I mean, like, who hasn't played those two games already? But then again, it's free, and when things are free, I guess pickers can't be choosers. And then Victor Kilsey, the CEO of Wargaming, comes out to talk about World of Tanks 360 edition, and about how it's like 15 on 15 team warfare, and that it will be free to play for Xbox Live Gold members this summer. So those are the two things that I missed. All right, so getting back to what I was gonna speak on. Oh yeah, Phil Harrison comes out and he introduces Minecraft Xbox One edition. Um, Again, big whoop. Then he introduces Sam Lake in order to speak on Quantum Break. And Quantum Break is a game where you're playing the role of Jack. And in this scene that they showed, this science experiment going wrong, and it causes time to freeze and to stutter. And what it seems like they're showing that you're able to do in the game is that that you're one of the few people who is really just unaffected by time, and like whoever you touch, them two like they become unfrozen. And yeah, like it was some of the stuff happening in the game. So yeah, looking forward to that. Also, a trailer for a game called D4 played. Nobody came out and actually explained what it was. It was just like a quick trailer. Like they didn't really show too much. The graphics in the game are like very cell shaded, and yeah. So that's all that I can really say about that. Then Dave McCarthy comes out and had introduced Project Spark. Now, what Project Spark is that it's a like this video game maker. It's this RPG maker um, game where you can create your own worlds. So like based on what they have given you in the game, and you're supposed to have like this unlimited amount of resources that you can do. And of course, it is voice command, and what I'm saying, because of the Xbox One Connect. And then he brings out Claude Jerome in order to demonstrate some of the things. And you know as he was talking, like he was giving commands to the Xbox One, and he was like, Xbox, create a river, then create a mountain, and out of nowhere, like these rivers and mountains are formed. And then he gave it shape and like some textures, like rocky textures, sandy textures, the Arctic textures, but and such. And then what they introduced is like this thing that ended up becoming like a reoccurring nightmare for like the next several games, was like the smart glass technology, where you use your iPad or like your phone or whatever, and you're able to um add like fine details to the 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 land that you're making. So say for example, in this area that you're pointing to um in your iPad, you can add like little hills and or what have you. And what I'm saying, like just change the the light source around and things of that nature. And then they gave the game to some other game developers, and they built on it for 3 days, and then they gave it back to them. And yeah, like they were able to do some cool stuff in this game. Um, like one of the features in the game is that they allowed you to basically make or like bring anything to life. So what they did um, in the demonstration is that they walked over to this rock, and what they did is that they gave the rock a brain, and they pretty much just told the rock to hop around, and it was just following the character around, just hopping him pretty much like a pet rock. And then they created some enemy goblins, and as the goblins were running up trying to um, um, attack, uh, yeah, like he switched it over from like a pet rock to like this rock fighter, and it was pretty cool in order to see that, you know. Um, but yeah, and then you know, later on in the demonstration, it changed, and like they turned this rock fighter pretty much like into this gigantic rock mech, and they both had got inside of it, and they were just controlling it, shooting everything in sight, and they tossed a fireball that created this lava pit. I mean, it was some pretty cool stuff going on up in there. And I know some people were kind of mad, you know, like I read the YouTube comments, I was looking in various forums and what have you, and some people were kind of mad at it because they was like, I'm not paying you to give me a game where I have to create a game. That kind of defeats the purpose of me paying you for a video game. But people have to understand, like, it is actually a market for this. It was a game on the PlayStation 2 called, and I'm not sure if it was also on the Xbox, but it was a game called RPG Maker. And, you know, I don't know how well it sold. I'm not trying to get too deep into that, but it's a market for it. And for guys like me who pretty much, like, I'm uh, enrolled in school in order to be a graphic designer. And it would be cool to, you know, saying like just try to gain some experience by just making my own games and things of that nature. So I think it's pretty cool. But like to the average consumer, like I don't think they were pretty much like it too much, because I don't think they had the patience to really make a game or like what have you. But that remains to be seen. So Project Spark, like when they got finished with that, um, they moved on, and then this montage trailer played of all the creators that have made games uh, um, using Spark, and then Mark Whitten came out to talk about it. Smart Glass again. Smart Glass, the reoccurring nightmare of the nights. Smart Glass, and quit knocking this over. And let me see. And then Ashton, I can't remember her last name, but her first name was Ashton. She came out with the iPad, and she was doing some things with Rise, and she was showing how, you know what I'm saying, how like you're able to view your progress, like your friend's progress in the game, as well as that you can um, uh, set up some multiplayer matches in the background on games that you're not even playing. So let's say if you were playing Killer Instinct, which they use in the demonstration, say like if you wanted a match in Killer Instinct, then while you're playing Rise, then and a match becomes available for you for Killer Instinct, then you're able to switch over to Killer Instinct instantly, and you'll be able to get into that multiplayer match. So they brought out Torin, who is a producer for Killer Instinct. He came out to play a match with Ashton, and you know, saying with this Mad Catz new stick, this new Mad Catz tournament stick, and the match was pretty much one-sided. I mean, people were laughing, just having fun, and the guy was joking around, what have you. And of course, after the match, like you see this pop up that this clip has been recorded, and then they introduce to you what's called Upload Studio, where you're able to edit, uh, share, and upload, video game footage because it gets recorded automatically. So yeah, so you have the option whether or not you want to upload or do something with that footage when it gets uploaded. So after that, they announced a partnership with Twitch TV, which is like the number one gaming streaming site online. And Mark announced that it will no longer be a limit of like 100 friends on Xbox Live, and you can add as many friends as you want. Now, it is unlimited. Also, Microsoft points are changing to your local currency. So, like, whatever your local currency is, they're changing it, which is good. Like, I never had an Xbox, but I've played at some friends' houses who had it. And it seems like one of the major gripes about the Xbox was that they had these Microsoft points, because you didn't really know if you paid money how many Microsoft points that you would get. You know what I mean? And like, you would have to do algebraic equations and do all these mathematics in order to find out and things like that. So they finally got rid of that. They said you're going to be able to use real currency on Xbox Live now. And then he mentioned that you can share your Xbox Live Gold benefits with people who are in your house. And just according to what they said, you don't even have to be logged on your Xbox Live Gold account, apparently. So that would be cool. And then a trailer played for Crimson Dragon, but there was no audio for it. And you just heard, like some people in the crowd just, you know, just really cheering and just making fun of the fact that it wasn't any audio playing for Crimson Dragon. So it was made by the people that made Panzer Dragoon, and it seems like this game where you just flying around on the back of this dragon, or like you are the dragon, and it's a shooter, pretty much, where you're just flying around and you're just shooting shit, either on the back of the dragon or on a dragon. Next up, from Capcom Vancouver, Josh Bridge and Mike Jones. Mike Jones came out and introduced Dead Rising 3. And in the game, you're playing as the hero Nick Ramos. And the zombies, pretty much, and like the zombies in this game, respond to your movement, so you have to be careful, otherwise you will be in like some crazy situations. But there's things you can do to distract them. And like one of the things that they did in the demonstration was that they fired this signal flare, and then this big group of zombies that were getting ready to just come up and just rape them, they all just followed that signal flare because they get distracted, that easy. Also, what you're able to do in this game is that you're able to make some makeshift weapons on the fly. So the moment you have two weapons or whatever, you're able to make it right then and there. Like, there's no area where you have to go to in order to make these weapons. You can make them right then and there. For example, they had jumped through the roof into this dark house, and they had a flashlight and they had a handgun, and right then and there what they did was make like this tactical handgun that has a flashlight on it, so like they'll be able to shoot the zombies in the dark. So that was something convenient. And it was something else that they did, is that they took a hammer and they took a chainsaw and they made like a hammer saw. So like one end was a hammer and the other end was the chainsaw, and they just was chopping zombies up like fucking sushi. So that was something cool that they had. Then uh, they had jumped into a car, and then they started driving around, and he was explaining how this is like the best method of transportation. So like where, so like as you're trying to uh, um, uh, find supplies and things of that nature. And the whole time they were just running over hordes of zombies. These big mobs of zombies were just getting ran over like fucking old pedestrians. Old pedestrians. Ugh, check out my lingo. I suck, right? But yeah, and again, they bring up smart glass and how you're able to call in pretty much like an airstrike and like wipe the zombie field clean, and then the demo end. And again with the smart glass thing, I feel like they're trying to force you to go out and buy an iPad or whatever, or if you already have one, because it's pretty much like you're going to have like these unfair advantages in like any type of multiplayer game that you're able to play online. Like you're going to have some type of weird advantage because you have the smart glass. You're able to call in these airstrikes and all these other things because you have smart glass technology. So that's kind of fucked up in my opinion. Then John Mamias comes out to talk about came out. The executive producer John Mamias comes out to talk. I have to be more careful. John Mamias came out, the executive producer for Project Red, and introduces Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and it's an open world game, and also spoke on in this game how you're able to use like voice commands in order to activate spells, and of course, you guessed it, smart glass. Then they played a trailer for it, and they came out. Uh, like they also had showed a little bit of gameplay in the trailer, and it looked good for what they shown. Like they didn't really explain if there will be a tutorial in the game, because one of the things that was a problem with the last Witcher, again, like I read forums on it, was that there was no tutorial and you pretty much had to learn the game on your own. Which, if you never played the game previously, you know what I'm saying, you wouldn't know what the controls were. So it's kind of, I hope they have like a tutorial in there for the people that buy that game, because if not, then it was just going to be like the same problems that they had in the last one. And like nobody's going to really want to mess with it after they hear about, oh, well, crap, like you got to learn everything on your own. Like I don't know how to activate anything or what have you. So that remains to be seen. Then Patrick Soderlund, I hope I got that name right. Patrick Soderlund and David Silverman came out from EA and DICE, and they came out to introduce Battlefield 4 using a new gaming engine called Frostbite 3. So when the demo started, it was no sound to it, and then it stopped, and for like the next 2 to 3 minutes they couldn't get it to play, and like people were heckling the guy in the crowd, and like uh and and Patrick was, like he was on stage and he was telling people to shush and things like that. Like it's starting, we'll start any minute now. And I kind of feel bad for the guy because like he didn't know what to do at that point. And then he said that, oh well, then I guess they'll start later. And so like he walks to the back and the guys tell him no, like we're just gonna keep going. And then eventually it starts and everybody's cheering and they're like, yay, we've been saved. But yeah, so that was like two messed up demos for Microsoft. First it was the Crimson Dragon not having any audio, and then the Battlefield 4 demo wouldn't even start correctly. So that was bad for them. But yeah, so finally it started, and it looks like a typical Call of Duty style first person shooter. like it's a military shooter. There's nothing really crazy about it. They mentioned that it was going to be that the demo was going to be in 60 frames per second, but anybody who's used to playing games such as uh, uh, Dante's Inferno or what have you, know that you pretty much know what 60 frames per second looks like. It's very smooth, and in this demonstration it wasn't as smooth as a 60 frames per second game would be. So it's like you promised 60 you said it was going to be in 60 frames per second. It wasn't in that, and yeah, so that was kind of like a letdown right there. But the gameplay, it looked pretty cool from what I seen. Like they had some crazy things happening in the demo. uh, uh, like this ship was like tilted, what I'm saying, like just because it got shot up and like blasted, and these airplanes were like falling down and they were sliding down, and one actually flipped over and just like smashed on two people, and then it slid off into the ocean. So that was something crazy that happened in there. And then one of the guys, like what he did was that he had shot the wheels of like one of the planes, and that plane started to slide down, and it kind of just cleared out whatever little crap that was there. So that was something cool and crazy and wacky. So then they jumped into the ocean and what have you. Make sure I don't miss anything. And then pretty much it was over after that. But finally, it ended, and then they mentioned that the Battlefield 4 Second Assault map pack will be released on Xbox One before anywhere else. So there you go. Next up, Phil Spencer came back out and started to introduce a game that looked a lot like a side-scrolling version of Journey, and it was called Below. It was called Below, and it had like some type of some combat features to it. But it pretty much looked like a side-scrolling adventure version of Journey. Like that's pretty much like the best way that I'm pretty sure that anybody could really uh describe it. um and so Phil announces that Microsoft will be investing in like 5 new studios, and that one of these studios, called Black Tusk Studios, is working on a new game that looks like some type of like tactical espionage type game, but they didn't really show anything of it. Like no name. All they showed was this guy uh scaling down this building, something like on a wire, and then he zooms in and he cocks back his gun, and then that was the end of the trailer. So there was only like 15 seconds worth of trailer there. It was no name of it, no gameplay or anything of it. So that was kind of like pretty much like a waste of time, in my opinion. Like they really would have been better off not even showing that, if you ask me, my personal opinion. But then they played a trailer of this game of a guy that was walking in this desert, and he's in this cloak, and then this big machine just appears out of the ground, and the guy looked like he exposes his arm, and he's holding dog tags, and it's a Spartan arm. So it's a new Halo game. I'm thinking it's a new Halo game. And Bonnie Ross from 343 Studios, she comes out and talks about Halo Assault and like this new live action Halo series that will be directed by Steven Spielberg. And like that's pretty much all she mentions with that the new Halo game was supposedly going to be called Halo Assault. I don't know if it's like a remake of the first one, but they're not calling it Halo 5. It seems like they're calling it Halo Assault. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like Halo 5 and they're just naming it Halo Assault or what it is. Like they really weren't clear on that. So all they said was that it's Halo Assault, and there's a new live action Halo series that will be directed by Steven Spielberg. That's all she said, like really said. Then Phil Spencer comes back out and he talks about the Xbox One is coming in November, and it's going to be for $499 United States dollars, €499, and 429 pounds in the UK. And some people were up in arms about that because the euro dollar is actually worth more than the United States dollar. So just taking the euro currency and you know uh and converting it into United States currency, that's $662. So they're paying more for the system than we are actually. So I don't know if somebody over there ruffled some damn feathers or what, but they're getting fucked over in my opinion. They're actually paying more in our money, to actually get a hold to this system. Yeah, but moving on, they then show an Xbox One exclusive title called Titanfall, and it's made by Respawn Entertainment, and the CEO Vince Zampella came out to talk about the gameplay of that game. And it's like a first-person shooter where you can call in these Titans from these ships that are flying around above you, and they're these giant mechs that seems to have this like either this type of telekinetic ability to like take several bullets and like they form around the hand, and then they just shoot them off at their target, and it does like a lot of damage. So like that's just one of the main things that they showed in the demo. But yeah, so that was pretty much it. And after that, like that was the end of the conference. Like the guy got shot up in the mech, and then he pulled this lever, and he just shot up in the sky. He got ejected out the mech, and that was pretty much it for the Xbox One conference. So some of the positives that I thought happened in this conference: they focused on games. They showcased their exclusive titles, pretty well overall. Even though it was a couple audio bugs and they couldn't get Battlefield 4 to start, that was just hilarious because the guy just didn't know what to do. He looked confused as hell, and he looked tired, like he didn't even want to be there. I don't know, like for some reason the guy just looked pissed off. But yeah, Xbox Live Gold members get 2 free games a month. They have Twitch, and to me, like the main thing about Twitch that's good is that, let's say if you're a person that wants to live stream your your gameplay, and say like you don't have like all this other equipment in order to do that, well, you'll be able to do that from the Xbox One. So I think that was something pretty cool. Some of the negatives: they did not speak about the controversy that was surrounding the Xbox One. They did not speak about the fact that it needs to be connected to an internet source 24/7. They didn't talk about why you need to check back on it in order to continue to play an on-disc game. They're forcing you to buy a Kinect, which is part of the reason why it's $100 over something like what it should be. And like they kept bringing up this damn smart glass feature. It's really like they were just shoving it down your throats. It's like, okay, either you get the smart glass or you won't have all these little cheap advantages in these games that we're making. So it was just like blah. Smart glass, smart glass, smart glass. It was like, take the smart glass, shove it up your ass, we don't want it. So that's pretty much it for the Xbox One conference. And I'm gonna be doing another video for the Sony PlayStation E3 conference, and again, it's kind of much more than what I have for the Xbox One. And oh yeah, like it's a lot more. It's a hell of a lot more. Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing that in a separate video. So you guys stay tuned for that. And at the end of the PlayStation E3 conference video that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be just comparing the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and we're gonna see which one is like the better system. So with that being said, I'll see you guys for that video. Peace.